She had an amazing childhood. And it's kind of like the irony, the juxtaposition of the girl who seemingly had everything, who became an Olympic champion, and the girl born without legs actually had the better life.
This is episode 36, part B of Pursuing Health with Olympic gold medal winning gymnast Dominique Moceanu. And you talk a lot about this and a lot about what goes on behind the scenes. And I think you've been really sort of a pioneer as far as telling the truth and really opening people's eyes to what does go on behind the scenes. And we've seen some other gymnasts come forward and talk about their experience as well, and how you have sort of given them permission to do that, or been that person that, they know they can go to for advice or to tell things that they maybe wouldn't tell other people. Why is that? What first inspired you to do that, and why is it so important for you?
Oh, I would say I was living in the same fear as a lot of these gymnasts for a long time. I was so scared to speak my truth. Mm-hmm. I was scared of being ostracized. I was scared of having people say nasty comments who didn't even know me, who say things to you that they don't even know your situation.
Right.
I decided when I was going to write my book, it was a 7-year process. It was hard. I was sitting at the computer oftentimes crying, just letting out all the pain and all the hurt because I kept it in. There was some nights I cried myself to sleep because I was so sad. And I'm like, why is there this void? Like, why do I feel this pain that's so deep? It's cuts. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to go to do unhealthy things for that pain, which a lot of people do. And I did. There were times where I did a little bit, but I was able to get that under control and not go off really, really bad. And then Mike came into my life. I was 19, and from 17 to 19 were, I would say, kind of my darker years where I just wanted to not think. I didn't want to think anymore of how hurt I was. I didn't even want to be around the sport. Mm-hmm. They were judgmental. As soon as I gained weight, you're too fat, you're not good enough. It was always something. You're never good enough. Mm-hmm. And I just needed to break free from that because I started little by little to realize, like, why do you have so much power over how I feel about myself? Mm-hmm. Why have I psychologically let you guys manipulate me that much? I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be those things. Mm-hmm. And I have to find a way to break free from that. So cut the people out that hurt me. Mm-hmm. Start talking about my past and my pain. And once I felt like opening up with my book was like the best healing that I could ever have. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's going to talk to someone privately.
Right.
For other people, it's talking about it to friends, opening up that actually existed in your life. Mm-hmm. Because you can't move past that point and heal if you don't talk about it.
Right.
So you can get it off of your chest. And for me, I had so much pent up here over everything that I had been through. I needed to release it in order to heal and move forward. And I could help others. And I thought, well, this is going to be a turning point. I said, because the governing body is going to shun me for the rest of my life unless there's new leadership that really understands and actually wants to use me as a liaison to help better the sport. Mm-hmm. So for a while, with the same people in charge, they're going to shun me, and it's not going to be fun, and they'll look at me with an awkward eye, and I'm not going to be welcome. So that was kind of a hard thing when I knew that I was right and I didn't do anything wrong, but that people are going to accuse you and be nasty to you all because you're speaking the truth. Mm-hmm. I had to be okay with that. That's not easy to be okay with. No. Because after I had been treated so badly in so many areas, then to continue to be treated badly into my adult years, it wasn't good. But
I think you talked about too, just when you talk about like how warped your perception was, how even at the Olympics, winning your gold medal and feeling empty and not feeling like you really were happy with how you did, even though you were an Olympic champion and you had achieved your dream, because you felt you had disappointed your coaches or disappointed your parents, and just how warped that perception was, and how it was almost like during those crucial years then going on, even as you were older and still transitioning coaches and environments and being unstable at home, ultimately emancipating from your parents. It's crazy for me to think about exactly what went on during that almost 10-year period of your life when most kids are going to middle school, going to high school, like maybe thinking about college in a much more stable situation.
Right.
And for you to finally break free from that and say, okay, all of these people that I thought I had to please and that I had to, you know, that were tied to my happiness, I'm actually going to, you know, step away and say what's actually best for me and like who am I and what really happened there.
Yes. Well, and that was why I ended up writing the book. It was a chance for me to have an introspective look at my life and go through it, you know, challenge by challenge, cry at the computer if I needed to when I was getting it out, release that stress and that sadness and that hurt, and start to move forward and realize that the very people that I allowed to have such control and power over how I felt about myself didn't care about me one bit. And it was so freeing to break free and know that I didn't need their approval in my life anymore. And it's a hard thing to do. I was a people pleaser. I wanted that approval. I wanted my parents' approval. And my mom, she always gets kind of lumped in. She tried her best. And my dad did too. He was temperamental and had a violent temper. But I realized when I got older that his father was very much like that. And he didn't have a good loving relationship with his father. So you always kind of figure out like where things stem from.
Right.
And that's where I was trying to kind of go with my book and my life. And I didn't want, because I could have been very, very harsh, even more, but that wasn't my goal with the book. It was just to show the way things happened. I wanted to display it and present it as this is how it happened, this is how I felt. Now you can make your own assessment because I needed to heal. I wasn't out to, I'm going to be vindictive, because there was a publishing house that was like, well, I want you to do a tell-all about the Karolyis. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I could, but I'm not. That's not who I am. I'm not going out to just be vicious. I'm doing this to heal, and you either are a part of that or not. And I had to go with people who understood that and really felt moved by my story just as it was. And so through that process and that introspective look and going through all those things, I started to realize like where things were happening in my life and why those things were kind of spiraling out of control and what the stem root of it was, and finally being able to articulate it, because you don't know in those young years, how do I articulate this stuff? All I know is I'm feeling pain.
Right.
All I know is I'm feeling a void. All I know is I'm unhappy. Like, why? I have all this success. I have this gold medal, yet I can't even be allowed to be happy. That's just such a weird thing to comprehend.
Yeah.
And all those years, I was like, why was it so hard for me to watch gymnastics after I stopped? Why was I in tears every time? I didn't even want to watch because I couldn't after 96 and then in 2000. And then, of course, I watched 2004 a little bit more and 2008 more. And then, you know, every Olympics, it's like an exciting time in our house now. But I had to get over those things and realize like, what was the stem root and why did I allow it to have power over me? And I'm never going to allow that kind of hurt and those people that are not important in my life to have that power and control and steal my joy. I mean, when you think about it, it's so crazy to anybody else who didn't live it.
Right.
They're like, how could you not be happy? You won a gold medal. And I was like, well, it's complicated because it
You gotta
is.
read the book.
Exactly. And that's the only way I could tell people about how it went, because I'm like, there's so much that was going on. It's not just a sound bite.
Right.
It's so much more. It's over time. It's over years. It's over so many different experiences that I grew to feel this way and this hurt. But over time, I found healing. I found love. I found Mike. Mike opened that new world up to me that I never knew existed, because for so long, the two main male role models in my life were my father and Béla. And these coaches, these male coaches who came in and out for shorter periods. But at the time where I needed these men to be role models in my life, they were failing me. And I was disappointed with them. And they were hurting me. And I didn't quite understand. Why are you acting like this? Like, what is it? Why are you being like that just to me? And so I started to just step away from everybody. And that's, why I got emancipated. That's why I needed to kind of get control of my life. And then when Mike came into my life at about 19, I was still kind of broken.
Yeah.
I wasn't whole yet. I wasn't at peace yet. I wasn't fully me. I was overweight because I was sad and I was eating unhealthy, and I couldn't figure out still at that time why I was hurt. Here I was in the grandest stage in the world, competed as a 14-year-old, and I was able to handle that pressure. Now, why can't I, figure out what's going on? Like, why do I feel these feelings and they're so hard for me to overcome? Well, because a lot happened. And I never went to talk to somebody about it, but I talked to Mike, and I ended up he knew without ever knowing. It was kind of crazy in the sense that how could Mike know all of these things without really knowing? He's like, I knew what you went through without even knowing every detail. I don't need to know every detail. He's like, 'cause you don't have to relive it. But he knew, and he seemed to know without me telling him. And that was just really such a magical connection, because when you can have a significant other to understand what you went through and not really know everything, but understand it, because he knew the sport so well and he followed my career from afar, but he was so intuitive and he's so smart that he was able to, with his intellect, put the pieces together. He's like, well, why else would you have left when you were 17? I mean, who leaves home like that?
Right.
I mean, clearly there were whispers in the gymnastics community that life was tough for me, and he'd heard some things. But little by little, he helped me patch up my wounds and finally, sewed little pieces of my heart back together. And I mean, I attribute a lot of my healing to him too, because he helped me find that unconditional love. And not that it was like performance based or it was because I had to please this person. He is the one telling me like they were wrong. And I'd never had anyone say that in my life, that they were wrong. You were not wrong. And I was like, that's what I've always felt, but nobody told me that. It was always, I'm the one supposed to feel guilty. I'm the one supposed to carry that the rest of my life. How is that possible when I don't feel I did anything wrong? And so he was kind of telling me, no. He's like, you don't need those people in your life, and you don't need anyone that's going to make you feel that way. And he started showing me a new way to live. And I started feeling good about myself again. And it was just so healing in so many ways. And finding someone that even my dad liked, little by little, my dad my dad and I patched things up. And my dad even liked him, which he never liked any boy. He never approved of anybody. But he liked him. Yeah. And before he passed, they developed a little relationship. And little by little, I was able to get everything that I needed to get off of my chest out in my memoir. And that was the big part of healing and continuing to still talk about it. I can't say that there are parts of my life that I don't get choked up about. When I talk about my dad and my emancipation, there's like a lump in my throat. Like I still have parts of me, because it was so hard. It was so hard. It was so lonely. And nobody was able to be there to help me. And I felt helpless. I mean, even just in my surroundings. And there were a few people here and there that gave me a little, bit of life by little nice little things they did. But it was really brutal. And I never wished that upon anybody. But I certainly know that now I'm stronger than I ever thought I could be. And I use all of these lessons when I speak now. And I'm able to titrate it down into effective messages and show people that you can have bad things happen to you in your life, but you can still come out a good person. You can still overcome them, and there's still a lot of life to live, and you can be happy. It may take a while, but you can get there. And that's my message of hope, and my message that, life doesn't have to end with your traumatizing situations or circumstances. You don't have to carry that with you forever. Even though some people would be happy to see you miserable, that's not what it's about. You have to break free from those people that make you feel that way. And with social media nowadays, it's a little more in your face. So you have to know when to hit the delete button. And you have to know what to ignore. But we all get sometimes, absorbed in it. And you just, as soon as you start getting too absorbed, you got to be like, okay, that's enough. I got to shut the door, because there are people that don't even know you that are making comments. Really? Do you really want to give that too much,
attention.
Yeah.
Right.
So you got to know when to step back, know when to hit delete. So if you're bold enough to leave a comment that's not appropriate, that my family, my friends, my neighbors are going to see, well, you may find yourself getting it deleted.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's amazing to see, and having read your book, to see just how strong you are now and how much you are thriving, and with your own family and with your relationship with Mike, and how you're helping other people. And another story that you talk about in your book is that you think your life is crazy enough.
Yes.
You think it can't get any crazier, and then something happens. I think you were pregnant at the time, to again show you just how strange life can be.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe you can talk about that.
Just when you think you have it all under control. Oh, no. There's a big, dark secret in your life that is about to pop up.
Yeah.
9 months pregnant. I'm in the midst of my 5 final exams at John Carroll University. And I receive a certified letter that changed my life. I mean, I was becoming a mother, losing a father to a very rare eye cancer, gaining a sister and gaining a daughter, all the while trying to complete my undergraduate degree. So when I say gaining a sister, literally, I had a long-lost sister that I never knew existed, that was presented to me in a certified letter, December 10th, 2007. I'll never forget it. It was a gray, rainy kind of morning. I just finished statistics finals at John Carroll, and I went to take a quick study break, and I had this certified, letter just kind of sitting there at my desk waiting to be picked up. So I was like, okay, who would have sent me a letter now? I'm like, okay, I'm going to go run and get it, and then I'll come back and study. Well, little did I know I'd be sitting there in the parking lot tearing open this letter, and there's court documents, there's some photographs, and then there's some legal documents, and actually a letter. There's 3 things. So court documents, photographs, and a cleanly typed letter from whoever this person was going to be. This is going to be my long-lost sister, apparently. So I started to shift my attention to the photographs. Literally looked like the spitting image of my youngest sister, Christina. Even the way they posed for their prom pictures and the way they did their hair, it was almost as if they were twins separated at birth. I'm like, wait a second, this can't be. I'm looking, this looks like Christina. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, what could be going on here? I shift my attention to the court documents, and then I see my mother and father's signatures on it. And I knew whatever I was about to find out was the truth. It wasn't like a fan trying to get closer to me, because I get people
get crazy letters.
Yeah, inmates saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be on parole soon. I'd love to come visit you." I'm like, "No, I'm good, seriously." But so I start continue reading, and then I'm like, okay, so this is some legal document. This is for real. My parents' signatures are on it. Okay, I'm gonna shift my attention to the letter and really find out what this is. Halfway through the letter, I say, I read this sentence that says, "My biological last name is Moceanu."
Wow.
And that's it. My heart sank. I knew it. I knew exactly what that meant. It was a long-lost sister that shared my same DNA that was given up for adoption, and I never knew it. It was between my youngest sister and me. So
Right
Christina and I are 8 years apart, and Jen would have been 6 years apart. And people are like, "Don't you remember your mom being pregnant?" In my life, in my world, you can believe that something like this can happen, right? My parents, they weren't really acclimated to Western culture. We never had a baby shower for any of the babies in our family, like ever. I never remember one for Christina. It was just like, oh, it's there and it happens. And there were shades of communist Romania kind of in that decision. They felt they couldn't probably take care of her, and that, when she was born, she had some deformities in her legs, and they weren't fully developed. So I guess there was a Romanian doctor there that said, look, she's probably going to have some surgery. She's going to need care. She's going to be growing up without legs. So I think it just was more than they could bear as well. My mom never got to hold her baby, so she never even got to really make a decision. It was my dad saying, I think this is best. This is what we're going to do. Going to provide her a life that's probably going to be better than what we could give her. And they gave her up for adoption. Well, gosh, it would have been nice if we would have been told.
At least to know.
And not find out in such a shocking way. I was very emotional. I was crying for days.
Oh, I can't imagine.
And I didn't want to go in premature labor.
Yeah.
As much as I'd been through already, that was a huge shock, even for me. for anybody.
For anyone, but
even in my
wow.
crazy, life.
Right.
But I was so overcome with emotion. I was 9 months pregnant. I was about to be a mother. And then to find out this, and I knew now the burden was on me to make it right. And not that it was a burden in a bad way, but I had a lot of responsibility with that information.
Right.
And I was like, I need to be a parent right now. I need to be at peace. I don't want this to adversely, because stress can adversely affect your pregnancy. And I was scared that was going to affect it. I was like crying for days. I mean, it was almost uncontrollable at times. But I was just like, I can't believe, just when I think life is settling down, that this is going to hit me.
Right.
And Mike was just beyond belief when he came home from work. I was like, I don't know what to say. I mean, look at this. This is unbelievable. He was just like, wow, we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. In his good old-fashioned Mike way.
I can see Mike doing that.
Yeah, I'd be like, well... it'll be all right, I'll be like,
fine.
yeah, everything will be great. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go home and I have to write her a letter of acceptance because, she's been waiting.
She's waiting to know.
Yeah, and I thought what a great Christmas present it would be. I sent her a bouquet of flowers and I wrote her a Christmas card and I said, you're going to be an auntie very soon, but let me digest basically this information because it's a lot for me to handle right now and I don't want to adversely affect my unborn baby. But you're accepted. We didn't know, but we know now. Christina and I, we accept you. And it was like right before Christmas, she did get it. So it's I thought it would be a beautiful Christmas present to end the year. Like she had been looking for us and found us. So I knew that it was up to me to make it right. And I wanted the relationship to start out healthy and right. And so I was already writing my memoir at this time. And I took a year to just digest and develop a relationship with the sisters and not have this be information that got out inappropriately like a game of telephone. I was so worried that this would get out into the headlines and be completely like it was when I got emancipated, all over tabloids. I didn't want that. I didn't want it to be an ugly thing. I wanted to present the information the way I got it accurately. So for 3 years, I told my sisters, no social media pictures. I know it's going to be hard for you guys. Yeah. I was like, do not post anything. And it was like, for them, it was like excruciatingly painful.
Sure.
And because, Jen had already been waiting and I'm asking her to wait 3 more years, but it was the right thing to do. And she knows this now. And she's like, no, it was the right thing to do. And Christina totally was on board. They were all on board. We had to talk about it. But it was hard toward the end. They're like, oh, can't wait to tell everybody. I've already been, waiting for a while. And Jen's just very open, But in my life, I'm a little more reserved. Like I'm a little more cautious with how things come out. I have to be, right. And I had been out there enough, so I knew how brutal it could be at times. So for me, I was very handling the information with delicacy that it needed, like just very delicately, because it was just important to do that, or else it would have come out the completely wrong way. And I didn't want that for our sisterhood. I didn't want that for anything. So we developed a relationship, and then I started writing again about a year later after I took a year off to develop this relationship, and we finally met. I had Jen come out to Cleveland, months later, about May of 2008. She got to meet Carmen. I was with the stroller and a rose at the Cleveland airport waiting for her. And then I remember us doing handstands in the living room with her. Actually, Mike was opening up her arm position. We were like, okay, do it like this. It was so funny. Who does handstands on the first time they visit each other as sisters?
It's in your DNA.
It's exactly. Apparently, it's in our DNA. So we taught her, and I credit Mike for all the handstands she does now is Mike had opened and we had sat in there in that living room and we were kind of teaching her how to open her shoulder line up. And it was so funny because that's our first memory together, like being in our old house in the living room doing that. So it's just funny that now you see all these handstands she's doing everywhere. And that was kind of our first memory. So it always makes me kind of smile when I see it because I'm like, I remember the first time we did that. But and now, she's developing into her own life and having launched her career in many ways and doing her own thing. She lives in California. Christina's in Texas. She's a new mom. I'm an auntie. So we're continuing to work on our relationship. I mean, it's very hard to throw someone into your life when you're 26 years old and they don't have that history with you. I mean, you're sharing the same DNA, but you're not yet sisters. But you are.
Right.
But,
there's so many things that you missed out on or you don't know.
Yeah. So we're still constantly learning about each other. And because we don't live in the same city, it's much harder. You're going to learn about each other at a slower rate because you're not talking every day. And I always tell my sisters, I don't want to be your social media friend, okay? I am your sister. Call me, pick up the phone and call me sometime. I always have to get on them about that. And I'm like, I'm not just your text buddy. Like, seriously, I know that's how we communicate these days. And I totally do it too. But I want to actually, hear your voice.
And see, now we have FaceTime and we can even see each other.
Yes, which I do that to see my nephew. But it's just funny. I mean, you get into this culture nowadays where you never talk to people anymore. You're just texting and you're seeing each other on social media. And that's fine with certain people in your life. You don't have time for every single person. But when it's family, like, I expect more. So I always get on them about that. They laugh, but
that's good.
Yeah.
What are some of the things, what was it, as far as your healing process goes, what was it like to hear about Jen's childhood? Because I know it was very different from what you experienced, and then to kind of compare and contrast and see, going through that process as you got to know her.
Well, one of my first questions to her was, did you have a good childhood? Because I was so afraid that maybe she didn't with foster care and adoptive family. You never know. You hear a lot of stories that sometimes aren't positive, and then you hear stories that are, so you just don't know, and I didn't know. So that was one of my questions, and I'd hoped and prayed. I was like, I hope she had a good, because then she's not carrying that with her. And I didn't want her to carry that with her. And so she said, no, I had an amazing childhood. It's how she is so just vibrant and full in personality and bubbly. She's like, I had the most amazing childhood. I was the youngest. I was adopted, and I was the only girl, but I had 3 older brothers, and, she's animated, but she had an amazing childhood. And it's kind of like the irony, the juxtaposition of the girl who seemingly had everything, who became an Olympic champion, and the girl born without legs actually had the better life. I mean, when you think about that, it's kind of ironic.
It is.
She had the better childhood, no doubt, hands down. I mean, amazing childhood. And I was happy for her. I was happy that she did, because it could have been hard. But that was one of the best gifts my parents gave her, is that she was adopted into a loving, awesome family. And, it worked out. It worked out for her in the best possible way. And I was where I needed to be. For whatever reason, I was placed there, and Christina and I we were placed there to be who we needed to be, and my parents probably needed us. Because oftentimes I felt like I was an adult in our situation, way beyond the years that I needed to be when I was really young. And I think I was there for them too, and my parents did their best. Like, I don't blame them. People are like, oh, your parents are bad people. I said, they weren't bad people. My mom is a great person. She just had to deal with her circumstances too. And my dad, I mean, they're immigrants coming to this country. They had no money. They had hardships. And my mom even slept in a car when she was pregnant with me. I mean, that's real life stuff. That's not easy. How many people do you know that slept in a car when they were pregnant? Very few people nowadays, and we have much better situations now, but there are still those situations that happen. And my mom and dad went through a lot. And I know that my dad's temper stemmed from his own father being abusive to him. And I realize that now. So I forgave him. I mean, by the end of his life, I forgave him, and we made peace, and I had to move forward. And I always want him to know, like, look, when he told me, he's like, I was a bad father, like toward the end of his life when he was really sick. I said, you weren't a bad father. You made bad choices, and you hurt us, and your temper was bad. I was scared of you for much of my childhood. That's not normal. And you shouldn't have been that way, but I forgive you. We survived it. We're a family. We may have had our dysfunction, but you know what? We are still a family. And I do love you, and I don't want you to leave this world not knowing that I didn't love you, because you never said it to me other than my 21st birthday. Like, you never really told me. And I wanted him to know that. And, to not hear the words until your 21st birthday that your father actually says, I love you. I mean, I was in shock. I was sitting at the gym, at Gym World in the parking lot, and I just start crying. I'm like, I can't go in the gym, like looking like this. I'm trying to clean. And I honestly, I almost can't stop. I can't stop the tears from coming. And I'm sitting in my car, and now you decide to tell me? Now I'm 21. I could have heard this earlier. But it's just how life is sometimes. It works in mysterious ways. And I think if he had to do it over again, he regrets a lot of things. And I don't want him to feel bad. And I've been able to move forward. And I know that, wherever he is up there, that he's proud of where I've come. So, I find peace in that.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful to see the way everything has kind of come together. As you look forward, now you have 2 kids. You talked a little bit about your son Vincent, and he loves gymnastics. I've seen him, he seems more dedicated than any other little kid in the gym. But how do you use all of your own life experiences and the lessons you've learned and as you move forward and you raise your own kids, you raise your own family, and what advice do you give to other parents?
It's funny, I've actually had emails from parents who want to kind of ask for my consulting experience and advice. They want me to just, whether it's give advice for their child or give them advice. I have been able to just use all of the knowledge that I have, and Mike has too, because he has different knowledge that he brings to the table, and really cultivate our own kind of methods and plan for our son. If he wants to pursue this, we're planners. We like to stay organized and think about things. And Mike is super always thinking of the future. And, he's always thinking, and I'm thinking. And we have an attention to detail in our eye, what our eyes focus on when it comes to gymnastics. So we can help give our children, honestly, the best experience they possibly can to be at their best. We have all the resources, all the tools. All our son truly, if he wants to do, is just work very hard. And everything else will be in place. We have the knowledge, we have the assistance, we have the plan, we have an idea of how we can get there. So as long as he still shows love and will to do it, I mean, he's starting to develop an eye. This summer, we really trained his eye to see things that most kids his age won't see and to develop it. And it's really cool now at the end of the summer to know, we put pictures and pictures. Okay, what do you see? He's like, oh yeah, that toe is not good. He's becoming very, attention to detail. Right. He's becoming very attentive. So that is going to help him in the long run, especially when so many young kids don't get that development. They don't train the eye. Because if you don't see what's wrong with that picture, how are you going to change it? Coaches always tell you, okay, do it again. Oh, you're not listening. Well, sometimes they don't know how to do it. Right. They don't know, they don't understand. And the coaches get frustrated. I see that sometimes. They're like, oh, I'm telling you 1,000 times. Well, sometimes you have to hands-on put them in it. You have to show them with their eyes visually. There's other ways than just telling them. Absolutely. And sometimes in our sport of gymnastics, there's a lot of coaches who don't have that knowledge just because they've never really had it or developed it or learned it from anybody. And I don't see it taught really. And a lot of people that I've been around, they don't train the eye. So that's something that we worked on this summer, and it's really cool to see where his attention is now and what he notices now, even about himself. When we'll show him that, what do you think's going on? He's like, oh yeah, I know. So it's good, and we're doing it in a healthy way. We're doing it in a playful way where he's not going to feel burned out. We don't want him in the gym all the time. There are times he needs to be, but we need to be efficient with our time. Right. I don't want him burned out. I don't want him full of injuries. So we have to prevent that by our strategy of how are we going to approach this. If he's going to do a long term, I don't want him in the gym 5 days a week right now. So we actually, in the summer, we cut a day out. And this year we did the same thing. There's an optional day for a 4th day. We cut that out. And so we do other things with him to develop his strength and his speed and other things so that it's not only gymnastics, but he's becoming well-rounded in all different things. And that's a key, I think, to the future.
Absolutely. And I love what you said too about how as long as he loves it, and it's amazing to see that he is so passionate about it. He obviously has the DNA from both of you, and then the passion for it in this household, but to see how much he really does love it is very cool. And
yeah, he wanted to, race you up the rope when we were in the gym and we brought him. He's like, can Julie do this? Can Julie do that? He's like, I can get up there like Julie can. And he's like getting up there. I remember he was showing off for you.
He was definitely beating me. I was too scared to go against him. But
no, it was so funny. But to see how he is motivated, you got, a firsthand look at to see how he gets in there, and he likes that. Like he likes to be pushed, and he likes the attention, and then he likes to be the best, So it's just kind of funny. I'm like, okay, we're going to ease into it. And
take our
funny.
time. And I like how you're looking at it from the long run.
Yes.
Well,
you have to
push too hard, too fast.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, so many coaches don't understand that idea. They don't understand that concept that, hey, in this sport, it's a long race, and it doesn't matter if you get to level 6 states first, and because if you burn him out by the time he's 13, that's not going to matter. Who cares about that? If you're keeping the pace appropriate as you go, you turn up the pace later. You don't need to do it now, because that's when the wear and tear on the body of these kids, so many of them are not physically, even though they do gymnastics, they're way physically stronger than a lot of kids, their peers, but they need to focus on the fundamentals so much more, and strengthening the body and the flexibility. That's what these formative years really need to be, worked on. And so much of that, because everybody gets excited, they want to go to the skills, and they're not strong enough to do them. So then they get frustrated because they can't do them. And I'm like, take a couple steps back and develop the child. But nowadays, all the coaches get so excited. They get a little bit of a talented kid, and they're like, oh, I want to throw them with all the tricks. Well, they have to be prepared. Their body has to be physically prepared to handle the tricks, or else you're going to get injured. You're not.
Right. And we talked about that earlier with myself I was doing gymnastics in high school, and obviously it was more seasonal. I would have times where I was off, and then I'd have to rebuild my strength to get my skills back. And then once I started CrossFit, I went back into play in the gym, and it was all of the skills that I had struggled with were so easy because I had that strength. And so you really do see how important those foundational basics are of just strength and flexibility and all of the different physical skills.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference. And I see it more and more how important it is.
Well, I want to end with three questions I ask everyone on the podcast. And I did ask Mike these when he was on the podcast about a year ago. I'll have to go back and remember his answers. But so the first one is 3 things you do on a regular basis that have the biggest positive impact on your health.
Workout is one of them. My introduction to Yobata. It's yoga and Tabata yoga.
Ah, very cool.
So it's a cardio form of yoga. So it's nonstop with only 10 seconds of really rest. But when you're resting, you're in a hold, whether you're on one arm, or you're in a little handstand hold, like a little crow pose or something. I did that just actually this past week, which I was like so proud of. Yes. But it's a cardio type of yoga where you're constantly moving. So I love it. And I've been taking regular yoga and bar. And so a lot of just changing up my workout routine this year has really been awesome for toning. And I feel just so much better just working out. So I would say that's something that I regularly do that makes me feel better. I probably would say the next thing would be anything with my family. Like we've started doing family walks in the evening. Yeah. And as long as we can, and even when the weather gets, we're doing it with everybody. All of our family disconnects from social media. We leave our phones behind unless, sometimes Mike leaves it just for, it monitors his steps. Yeah. And of course, he's on call, so you never know. But, so I would say that's something we've been really regularly doing, and we love it. Every night, our son's like, we're going to go for a walk. And it's getting them realizing that fitness is important, but we're doing it as a family. Because we could always do it individually. We do. But it's a way for our family to bond and connect. And right now, because our daughter is into art and painting and different things that aren't as physical, but she's very strong. It's just right now her attention is just to school and some of this other stuff. We want to get her back into skating, which she loved. But it's just kind of finding the time to get back into it. But this is something we can do as a family. So family walks, I think, are really phenomenal for family bonding.
I love that.
And we do a big round all the way around the neighborhood. It takes about 30 minutes. And I would say it's been really, really good for our kids and good for us. I mean, I look forward to it. I love it. And our kids love it. So at first, I remember our daughter was like not so into it. She was
I was going to say, I could see my sister being like, I'm not going.
Yeah, so she was totally like that in the beginning. She threw a little bit of an attitude, and I was like, no, you're going. It's a whole family thing. We're going. And she's like, moping in the back.
Yeah.
And then by the second time, she was like, I think I'm kind of liking this. By the third time, no problem. She is like loving it, and she's because she needs that physical fitness too.
Yeah, the fresh air.
The fresh air is awesome. I mean, and the kids, and we let Vince ride his bike sometimes. So, can I ride my bike? So whether it's a walk or he gets to ride his bike, at least we're doing it together. And I really, really love that. And the third thing is I try to do a devotional every day that makes me feel good. I wake up and I know that I don't go out just needing other people's approval. I need God's approval, and I need to make sure that I'm walking in my faith every day and believing that what I do is right. And I've been doing a lot of that, and I've been listening to a lot of great messages that really make me feel good and feel inspired. And anytime that I can feel that in my day, like I want more.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of that. So that allows me to be grateful. It allows me to just view things differently. And as I, become more and more of a speaker, I'm always trying to find good messages and messaging points. And a lot of it stems from my own experiences. But just having these devotionals come into my life and be a part of my life allows that just that gratefulness that I think we all sometimes tend to forget in a busy life. And just remember to be grateful where we are, and it allows me to realize how much I've overcome, and those things to me it just makes my world better.
I love that. My next question is one thing that you think would have a big impact on your health, but you have a hard time implementing it, or something you just struggle to get into your life.
But I love my coffee, and it's something that I don't want to live without.
It's not a bad thing.
So if that's one of my worst things, I think I'm okay. I've learned to balance what I eat, eat what I want in moderation. I don't overeat in, terrible things. I eat what I want in moderation. I don't eat tons of it anymore, because for a while, because I had such a warped body perception, I was going binging, then I was not eating, then I was taking pills, and then I was taking laxatives, and it was all terrible cycle. Like I can't believe what I did to my insides because I just wanted to be lighter on the scale. And if I didn't take those things, it would help me like lose some water weight, take water pills, or whatever I had to do to be skinny and be on the weight that showed lower weight than I had come in. And it was all very bad for me. Luckily, I stopped that a long time ago.
And was that part of how did you start to get past that? Was that part of sort of the whole healing process and going back and understanding why some of the things were the way they were? Or was there some other way that you were able to overcome that?
Yes, it all started to happen when Mike came in my life. All that healing started to happen, all the understanding, all the writing, when I wrote my book, all of that started to really come out and start to really come to the surface. Like, oh, this is why. Like, Mike would never let me do that if he knew that he would never let me go that direction. But he also allowed me to explore foods and teach me new foods and just introduce me to foods I'd never eaten before, just to kind of open up my palate. And I realized that I love sushi a lot and just different things that I never knew about.
And he's a very adventurous eater. Every time we've gone out to eat, he's always getting the most exotic thing on the menu.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's adventurous. And so it was kind of fun because he enjoys eating and I enjoyed eating. So it was kind of something we bonded over immediately because I always felt self-conscious because I was a girl and I was an athlete, but I could eat a lot. And I always felt self-conscious around if guys were watching what I ate. I wasn't just a little salad type of girl. I like meat and I like steak and I wasn't afraid to eat it. And obviously when I was first with Mike, I was not my complete, great shape. I was a little chubbier and heavier, and he still liked me anyway, so it was good. And we loved our little pizzone pizzas we'd eat together, and we enjoyed and bonded over food. And that was so refreshing because I'd never been able to eat so freely with somebody and not feel self-conscious about eating, because for so long everybody was monitoring and watching what I ate at the table. So I became very self-conscious about what I ate in front of who I ate, and they make you kind of scarred a little bit in that way. But now I'm like, if you're gonna judge me for eating a steak, well, have at it. I'm gonna have it anyway. But it was nice because I finally had a healthy relationship with somebody who didn't judge me for what I ate, didn't care if I ate. He's like, eat it if you want to eat it. And he's a fast eater and I'm a fast eater, because I learned to eat fast, because if I didn't get enough in, my coaches would be like, that's enough food, put it down. So I had this habit, and I didn't realize that I had become a very fast eater. And all of a sudden I was done. I'm like, oh, you can keep up with me. It's good. It's good.
It's a good sign.
Yeah. But I didn't even know I had developed this eating fast kind of thing. And I know that I should savor my food. And now I'm like, much more relaxed. But I think for so long I was conditioned.
Right.
And I think that's what happens when you're hiding food, when you're binging, when you're closet eating, and all this stuff that you've had problems with food and just the relationship with food. It's actually a bigger deal than most people realize in gymnastics, especially when you've been at the highest levels.
Yeah.
But we just bonded over food, and I think that helped me heal too. It just every little bit. I mean, he was there for a lot of the hardships. He was there with my dad when he was dying. He was there when, just when he had to stick up for me when I did gymnastics as a woman, and I finally did gymnastics on my own terms, and I got to leave the sport on my own terms somewhat. I mean, there was politics there. He got to coach me, and I got to do gymnastics differently as a woman. And I think there was a lot of good to that. There was a lot of healing with all of that, with everything. So I would say just my initial relationship with Mike started a lot of healing for me. And he's been a huge, stable role in my life. From the time that I left home, there was all these people were leaving my life. It was so bizarre. So strange that there was never stability. And then when it came to coach athlete, there was never stability, and there was never someone sticking up for me fully. People were always afraid, and he stood up for me when I needed him to. He was there for me. He wasn't afraid to go against the powers that be, and he wasn't afraid that someone would say something to him. He was like, no, I'm here for you. And it was so nice to have a companion that was there for you and supportive of you and wasn't afraid to stick up for you. I mean, that's a big thing, especially through all that I had been through. And I've just forever will be grateful for that.
Wow. Last question is, what does a healthy life look like for you?
Well, healthy life obviously now looks, it looks great where I'm at. Free from addictions, free from obsessions, a healthy relationship with food. The fact that I can eat freely and eat whatever I want. I can exercise regularly and actually want to go and really feel good when I go. And it's all self-driven. Nobody's making me do this. Nobody's forcing me to eat the way I want to eat. I'm doing it all on my own freedom and free will. And I think that, to me, shows such a long road that I've come to be able to come to this place in my life where I'm not in an eating disorder situation. I'm not obsessed with food to the point where it controls my life. I don't have any addictions. I've come out of things in a really, really healthy way. So I must say that given all the things I've been through, a healthy lifestyle is what I'm living now. And it's a great thing to be able to be free with your food and free from addiction, but free from, being scared to eat and all of those things. And also having a healthy physical lifestyle, working out, doing things I love, having my kids see that healthy lifestyle so they're not ever going to have any issues when it comes to that, because our son is really in tune with his body and he wants to feed it, the right things. And of course he likes the Werthers and things like that. And we let him because they're kids, and you want to give them a good balance of things and just let them know, like, that's actually, probably has more sugar than you will need, but you know what? You're a kid. You're allowed to try it. You're allowed to just don't overdo it because you may get a bellyache.
Yeah.
And I think just approaching it in such a simple way has such a better effect on kids than so much. And eventually, little by little, they're not obsessing over the Twizzlers. You know, they still love them, but I loved them as a kid too. But they're not obsessing over it. They're not like, oh, I have to because I feel so withdrawn. Like we felt so withdrawn as elite athletes that you feel, you know, like you're missing out on something. So you kind of overdo it later on. But that's it. I mean, I'm able to say in a very honest way that I'm living a very healthy and much happier lifestyle than I probably ever have. And I'm very thankful for that.
Well, it's beautiful to see. And I have to say, when I think about your whole life and your whole experience, it is amazing how resilient you have been and to overcome all of the challenges that life has thrown your way. And to really, it's been an honor to be able to connect with you at this point in your life. And I can't wait to see the things that you do in the future too. So for people listening, where can they find out more about you or things that you're up to right now, or kind of keep track of what you're doing?
Well, I'm on all the social media outlets. I'm at official Dominique Moceanu for Facebook. I'm at Dominique Moceanu for Instagram, at dmoceanu for Twitter. My website is dominique-moceanu.com. And I have a jewelry business, creationsbycnc.com, that I started. And I really love doing it. And if anybody wants any jewelry, let me know.
Check it out.
Yeah.
She made my wedding jewelry, which was beautiful. So thank you for that.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. I love doing that stuff and love being creative, and having a new creative outlet is fun for me. And it's always fun to have accessories. I mean, what girl doesn't like that, right?
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for having me, and we'll have to catch up with you again.
Yes. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you're intrigued by what you heard, I highly recommend checking out Dominique's memoir, Off Balance. It's available in a paper copy as well as audiobook narrated by Dominique herself. And I mean it when I say I couldn't put it down. I think it's a fantastic window into the power of mental strength and resilience, and just how possible it is to overcome tremendous obstacles and live a very happy, healthy, and fulfilling life. To make sure you never miss an episode and to receive exclusive content from me, head to my website, juliefouché.com, where you can subscribe to my email list. Also, don't forget to share your stories. If you or someone you know has used lifestyle to overcome a serious health challenge, please email me at info@juliefouché.com. I'll choose some of these inspiring stories to share here on the podcast in future episodes. If you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and consider giving the podcast a 5-star rating on iTunes. Also, don't forget you can train with me by visiting beyondthewhiteboard.com/JulieFouché. I always love hearing your feedback, so please leave comments under this post on my website, juliefouché.com, and share your thoughts on social media with the hashtag JFHealth. Thank you again so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on Pursuing Health.